Can we actually unpack what a toxic workplace looks like, what it actually is?
If your boss is a miserable, toxic loser, I'm so sorry, nothing you say is changing that.
Yeah.
It's like arguing with a narcissist. Really have a paper trail. So when you eventually go to your boss, you have documentation. Would you be comfortable with the CEO, human resources, and your boss hearing what you're about to say?
Whew.
And if the answer is no, shut your mouth.
Emily, welcome back to the show. I am so happy you're here. I'm going to scooch closer because
Let's
I'm
do
so
it.
happy you're here.
Should we hold hands under the table?
I would love to hold hands.
Can we hold space?
Wait, just pinkies, just pinkies.
Oh, beautiful.
Your episode, I think we did it in season 2, was one of my all-time fave. It was an audience all-time fave, and I'm just honored to have you here because you have such an amazing voice in the world of giving such good, real talk advice, but doing it as like the best friend that we all need.
Oh, that just makes me so happy because honestly, the feeling is mutual. I know we were talking about this before, but honestly, that was one of my favorite episodes I've ever done. Like, I'm so excited to be here. We also could yap forever.
We will.
So I feel like we're going to have a time.
We're going to have a great time.
We're going to have a time. We're going to drop some fire advice.
Yes.
Life is good.
People need it right now too. And what I really want to talk about today is navigating toxic work environments, workplace drama, but all through the lens of like, there's a labor market crisis happening. So the advice that I felt like we could give before is a little different maybe than right now when people are fighting for their lives in their jobs. So,
and we still don't know what's to come is the scary part, right? Like we're in this labor market crisis, I think is a very fair word. We still don't know what that looks like a month from now. Like you've got some economists saying big, scary 2008 level recession. And you've got others saying, well, it's going to depend on if and when those tariffs hit. So like there's a lot to unpack. Yeah. So interesting time. Doesn't mean that we're out of luck. It just means we need to be very strategic. Like this is a time for strategy.
And forecasting is generally saying we're looking at incoming potential layoffs. We're looking at, it's probably going to be a hard time to fight for big raises.
I would argue almost impossible. Yeah. Well, because there's a couple of things, right? So you've got obviously like turmoil in very, very difficult political times, right? And all of the financial implications of what that means. So you've got that whole bucket of hell, just like horrible bad. Super exciting, really starting off on a positive note. Fun times, live, laugh,
We're really fun people.
And you know what? Like I'm happy you brought that up because this is not giving fun, but I promise we'll get to some like actionable tips to help you get through it. But yeah, you've got these really icky economic times, but then you've also got like a fundamentally changing labor market, right? So you have this shift from jobs that existed 10 years ago to jobs that are on their way out because of AI. Like it's anticipated that I believe it's up to 85 million jobs are going to be replaced by AI in the next 15 years. That's a crazy statistic.
That's wild.
That doesn't mean that your job is going to be like up and out and everyone's screwed and mad dash and you have to be a software engineer. No, it just means you need to be thoughtful about how you are learning to work with technology to make yourself irreplaceable. So you've got like this shift in what we're hiring for in addition to the shift in the market itself. It's weird.
There's a lot going on. It's weird vibes. It's eclipse energy.
It is. It's like something is happening in the stars. It's not good. Everything is figure outable. I think that's one thing you need to live with. Like this isn't the worst we've seen it, and it probably won't be the worst we will see it. We just need to be informed so we can navigate things not in the dark. Like that's really it.
And I want to talk about like through that lens, how we deal with toxic workplaces, because first of all, I have genuinely experienced some toxic workplaces in my days, but I also hear people kind of misusing it a lot. And when I hear friends being like, oh, I've had to work so hard this week, I'm in such a toxic workplace. I'm like, can we actually unpack what a toxic workplace looks like, what it actually is? Because like working hard and having like a bit of a stressful job, I don't think is necessarily toxic. I think that's reality. So how do you know if you're in a toxic situation and if this is actually something you should even like evaluate leaving?
It's a good question. So I think a lot of people tie work-life balance to toxicity. And I think we need to unpack those separately before we understand where those come from. And especially in your example, because I hear that a lot where people say, oh my God, I worked like 60 hours this week. That's bad. If that is what's happening every week, probably your work structure isn't healthy. But if that's like the odd couple of weeks here and there, that's unfortunately the aggregate of work-life balance. And I think that's the myth of work-life balance, is that it's this, like perfect thing. Like, you're always going to be able to leave at 5 and have all of these things. Like that's not true. That's not how the world works. But work-life balance is the sum of its parts. So on the all, is it 80% of your time is spent well balanced. So you've got that. Working hard doesn't always mean toxicity. For me, when I think about toxicity, especially with the clients that I work with, it's more about the culture around how you work. It's less about the volume of work, because sometimes shit happens and you're going to be busier, and it is what it is. Fine, it happens. The problem with toxic work environments is A, that becomes the expectation. B, you are mistreated. And how I would define that is if you have set boundaries at work that are constantly getting crossed, chances are you are in a toxic work environment. So I think about it through the lens of not output and how much you're working, because sometimes life happens. Think about it through the lens of, have I set reasonable boundaries, and how often are they getting crossed?
Right. Because if you're working like those 60-hour weeks and you haven't flagged that to your manager and nobody really knows, and you're kind of just martyring yourself,
Mama, that's
which
on you.
A lot of us do.
Yes.
No way. I would like stay till the office till 10 p.m. and the lights would go off and I'd be like, look at me. I'm working so hard. I'm such a star employee. But I'm like, no one is actually demanding that I do this. So I think also like examining how much of this is me putting this pressure on myself and how much of this is a toxic workplace expecting me to do this.
Yes. And there's a difference between being able to go to your boss and saying, hey, this workload isn't manageable, and your boss responding and saying, oh my God, I had no idea it takes 12 hours to do that report. Let's do X, let's do Y, let's get there, versus them saying, okay, yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, that's toxic. But I think the way you differentiate toxicity versus maybe some self-induced work anxiety, which is natural and normal, and don't beat yourself up for having that, is what are the boundaries you are setting? And again, ask yourself, are those boundaries getting crossed? Because there's a very real difference.
Yeah. And is that what you would suggest also if you have like a team or colleague or boss who's like veering into kind of some toxic behavior? Does it start with boundaries? Like how would you approach that?
It's a good question. And it's hard because there's so many different layers of toxicity, right? You've got the toxicity of people who are just bad people.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And trust me, Mama.
There's some assholes.
Girl, some. I came from investment banking, and if they're listening, don't listen, because I don't want to hear.
This episode is not for you.
This episode is not for you. There were so many wonderful people, and there were people who called me honey, sugar, and legs, right?
Ew.
That's toxic.
Ew.
I know. I do have a good set of legs, but that's not the point.
You do,
know what I mean?
but
Thank you so
like,
much.
I'm not going to do that in the office.
Not
We'll
in
go
the
outside
office.
and I'll tell you that.
Outside, let's go grab a cocktail. But no, so I would say there's like the toxicity around how people treat you, toxicity around volume of work, toxicity around the expectations. All of those things can be valid.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes to stepping into like your action plan, step number one is take a little space and evaluate what's going on here.
Okay.
How much of this is self-inflicted? And that's not to victim blame you at all. It's asking, how much have I actually stood up for myself?
Yeah.
Susie's making those weird comments. Have I actually taken a moment to be like, Susie girl, I don't love that.
It doesn't feel good.
Doesn't feel good. That might be the moment Susie goes, oh my God, I thought we had that kind of cheeky relationship. I'm really sorry. That might be it. So first I would say take a step back. Next, I would say the biggest thing you have to do is start documenting.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds super like HR coded, but it is.
Yeah.
Take a step back, evaluate what's happening, set a quick little boundary where you go, hey, I don't like that. Or hey, I'm at capacity. Test the waters, see how people respond. If you're noticing your subtle little, hey, I've noticed we're all working till 10 p.m. Like, is this going to be consistent?
Yeah.
If that is the yes, okay, you need to start documenting how many days a week you're working overtime, what's some of the language being used, write that down, really, really have a paper trail. So when you eventually go to your boss and say, hey, this is the culture I'm noticing we're building, it's making me feel burnt out, or it's making me feel uncomfortable or unsafe, or whatever that is, you have documentation.
Yeah.
Because if your boss is toxic, they're going to gaslight you out of that conversation.
Yeah.
And you can say, that's fine. However, I've got 3 weeks of documented uncomfortable comments from Susie and overtime that's making me feel sick. So what can we do here?
Here are the receipts.
Here are the receipts, proof, timelines, facts, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what you need to think about. But the challenge with that is if you're in a truly toxic environment, you doing that's not changing anything. Like if that's a truly not toxic manager, they're going to take that and go, oh my God, our workplace is toxic. I'm not, let's fix it.
Yeah.
If your boss is toxic, you doing that is changing nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do to fix a toxic manager, in my opinion.
Yeah. So then what in this day and age with all the fun things happening in the economy, in the workplaces, what would you suggest people do if they realize in fact this is toxic? Because during like the Great Resignation, the advice floating around was just like, get the fuck out of there. We're in a world of possibility. Someone else will treat you better. But right now it feels like there is a scarcity of jobs and there is like a lot of looming fear of what's ahead. So how do people know like when to actually pull the plug? Is it just a matter of like making sure you have something else lined up? Like, you're in a toxic environment. What do you do right now in 2025?
It's a really good question. So the first thing I want to say is anyone advising you to not quit your job at all is giving you crummy advice. The market is bad. The market is not impossible. What you should be listening to very clearly is you should not be quitting your job without a backup plan, without you having another job lined up, money in the bank where you can cushion an up to 9-month job search, because that's realistically what it could take. You need to be able to have that backup plan. If your job is impacting your mental health, if you've dropped these hints to your boss, if you've had that hard conversation with documentation, maybe you've even taken things to HR and things aren't changing, it's okay for you to want to leave. You need to be strategic. So if I'm in your shoes and you've dropped those hints, you've tried to kind of navigate the situation, it's going nowhere, I'm applying for jobs like a crazy person.
Right.
Get out there. Maybe I'm listing my services on a website like Upwork or Fiverr just to have some additional income. Those are some online consulting websites, whatever your industry is. There's always something you can post on there for compensation.
Everybody has a side hustle skill.
Everyone's got a side hustle. Like, crack into that side hustle and then be really thoughtful about your savings. And if it's bad enough that you are like, I feel dread, it is impacting my wellness, I still say get the F out of there, as long as you have the backup plan. It's
it may take a bit of time to like put it all together, to like get your emergency fund in order, to get the side hustle off the ground, to like network and start applying to jobs. So like you may need to like white knuckle it for a bit. But the exit plan can be in motion.
In life, truly, and I saw this on TikTok, which is obviously the source of truth for all things. This quote was so incredible. It was, you have 1,000 problems in life until you have one, and it's your health. So the second a job is pushing you to the point of, I'm miserable, I feel ill, like my body is shutting down, because that happens. Burnout is a physical response. You have permission to leave. Just make sure you have a backup plan. Anyone telling you to quit your job and you'll find another one in a couple of weeks is lying. You could be incredible at your job. You can be the best of the best. It's going to take a long time, if for nothing else but the fact that companies are pausing on high volume hiring because they want to see what's happening in the economy. They don't know if they have budget right now, and they won't for a few months.
100%. I have loved ones who have quit a job and then been out of work for over a year because they get to the final stage, and then companies will be like, we have a hiring freeze. Like, we want you, but we literally just got paused. And that's happening across the board. So
every single industry. I would say anything other than software engineering, and even software engineering to an extent, is facing this. I would say the only thing that's stayed pretty sticky is software development.
Wish I was a nerd. Really do.
There are days I wake up and I'm so mad, not only at myself, but my parents.
It's their fault.
But isn't it always? I'm like, how dare you not push me into STEM?
I know.
Here I am.
Why was I doing
for
theater?
Why was I on stage? Put me behind a computer.
Were you a theater kid?
Of course I was a theater kid. Were you a theater kid?
Yes, every theater kid now has a podcast.
Wait, were you a musical theater kid? Or
yes,
both.
Wait,
that's so funny.
Okay, I'm going to ask you some advice that I wish I'd had many, many years ago, because I've had a series of bad bosses. And when you have a good boss, the difference it makes in your experience and in your life. And when you have a bad boss, you could be doing the thing you love at the place you want to be, crushing it, and it can be soul crushing. It can really fuck with you. So let's talk about bad bosses and how to navigate different kinds of bad bosses. I think the most common bad bosses I've seen are micromanagers and like kind of anxious and controlling bosses, where like it's not malicious, but it does really impact you.
Beyond.
And then just like grumpy, negative, short-fused, mean people.
Mean losers.
We can
say it.
Who are
losers.
on like a, basically like you could go and be like border security vibes.
Yes. Miserable, angry, sad people. Yeah.
What is your advice for dealing with these kind of like two buckets of managers?
Yes. Okay, so let's start with micromanagement. First of all, the old saying is so true that like, you don't leave a bad job, you leave a bad boss.
100%.
I've had jobs I've loved. Like, I had one job in particular. Oh my God, I loved that job. I would have stayed there forever. My boss made me want to rip my hair out of my head. And they were a micromanager. You have to understand the root of micromanagement. And there's two. One is your micromanagement is valid because you as an employee have dropped the ball and your manager has lost trust in you, and they are micromanaging you to figure out how to gain trust. If that is the case, you should be self-aware enough to know, I screwed up that report a couple of times and now they're breathing down my back.
Fair.
That's fair. Please, I've been there. You are not meant to be perfect at work. The way to fix that is an honest conversation with your boss and say, hey, I know I really dropped the ball on this project. Here's what I've done to close those skills gaps. Are you comfortable if I give this next round a go by myself, and I'll proactively give you updates and review before I submit it? The reason that works is you're proactive about your ask, you're acknowledging the fact that you dropped the ball, and you're giving, frankly, like your manager a chance to trust you. Now, if you shit the bed on that, mama, you're going to get fired.
You're done. You're done.
You better keep it quiet. So there is a very real category of micromanagers where you've lost their trust, and that's okay. Work to build it back.
I love that specific script that you gave, because I think it goes against this idea of like people are so scared to admit when they've done something wrong. And they feel like, let's just like patch over it, brush over it, pretend it didn't happen, because like there's this expectation that we have to be perfect at all times. But what an amazing thing to be able to like go to them and be like, I recognize what I did. I recognize how things, slipped through the cracks, and here's my plan to get on track. Like that would make me trust my employees so much more.
Well, and I love that you use the word trust, because that's what it comes down to. When you've got a boss where you don't have a great relationship, trust is a pretty big factor.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to be humble. You have to be able to say like, I really did not know how to do that, and I tried, and dude, I dropped the ball, or like I did forget to submit that report. It's okay to make mistakes as long as you're not making the same mistake twice. So as long as you're like, oh my gosh, all the time I'd be like, oh my gosh, I made this mistake, I dropped the ball. So yeah. Be honest, be open, be humble. I would say that's maybe 20% of cases.
Okay.
I would say the majority is you've got a micromanaging boss because they're very insecure.
Yes.
They are either a green manager, so they're new to the job. They're scared that their performance review is not going to be good if their team isn't perfect. Yeah. So they hover and they have anxiety and they can't let go and they need a report update on this and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh my God, like exhausting. So you've got that really green, insecure manager. The root of a micromanager is a manager who A, doesn't trust themselves, and B, doesn't trust that things will work themselves out. It comes down to deep-rooted insecurity.
That makes a lot of sense, because anxiety is really like a lack of self-trust, I find.
Yes.
And then the result of that is control. Yes. And I think that's what happens a lot with micromanagers.
100%. They're trying to control the situation the best that they can. And a truly mature leader knows that that's not how you build strong, trusting relationships and actually get the results that you want. You actually get worse results when you micromanage. We'll get to the how to fix it in a second, because ultimately it's pretty similar for both. So you've got this micromanagement bucket. Bucket number 2 is grumpy, nasty, shrewd, rude. Can I tell you something?
Shrewd, rude, yes.
Can I tell you something I needed to hear at 19?
Yeah.
That manager who is trying to make you feel small and stupid for learning, for growing, for being a person is a loser.
Yeah.
And the second you realize that person is a loser, do you want to know how free you'll feel?
True.
Because you're no longer going home being like, oh my God, my boss thinks I'm an idiot. They're so mean. They think, okay, what do you think of your boss? I think your boss is a loser.
Yeah, you're not self-examining. You're actually being like, no, you're the problem.
And why are you taking criticism from someone you would not trade places with?
Oof, that's real. That's real.
Like if your boss, it's one thing to deliver feedback, and feedback is a gift. Criticism is not a gift.
Yes.
And feedback is only a gift if the sender is not an asshole. If your boss is trying to tear you down and be negative and just grumpy and nothing you do is ever good enough, stop internalizing that. How people treat you is a reflection of how they treat themselves. Truly the best mindset shift in the world is realizing that that person at the end of the day is a miserable loser. And that will set you free.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't help you to get your performance review and to show up to work. So here's what you're going to do. The first thing you're going to do is identify which of those buckets you fall into, what's in your control. This is going to be really uncomfortable. And I hate this. You've got 2 options, maybe 3 if you're feeling crazy. The first is you start looking for work because this is not labor you are willing to take on. I support that.
Yep.
The second is you have a very vulnerable conversation with your boss. You sit down. And the trick is you don't go down into this conversation and say, hey, I've noticed that there's a lot of miscommunication because you keep changing your mind. That's not going to get you good results.
No.
You come from a place of, I've noticed we've had some speed bumps. What can I do better so we can work together more easily? You focus on language around you. How can I be better? It's really hard for someone to be defensive and nasty when you're trying to develop yourself.
Yeah.
A smart person is going to read between the lines and go, okay, so they're on to me.
This is smart.
Yeah, they're going to say, okay, you can do this, you can do that, but I understand that maybe I'll adjust, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
It starts the conversation. If that conversation goes nowhere, please do not waste your time. They will use that as ammunition. They will say that you are aggressive and difficult to work with and insubordinate. They will use that as a means to get you fired because toxic managers have egos.
Yeah.
And you cannot work with an ego. The third option is after you have that conversation and either it doesn't go well or your boss is like, you can do this better. And they walk away. Like, oh, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can go to human resources. If it's bad enough, make sure you have documentation, make sure you have, all of that ready to go. Please understand, as someone who's worked in HR, the second you go to HR, the relationship with your boss is over.
Yeah.
So you need to be confident that they will either get rid of your boss or deliver feedback in a way that changes how they work.
Yeah.
But I'm a big believer in you can manage up a little, but that's only with people who want to be collaborative.
Yeah.
Because a good leader is going to listen to that feedback. And I've had that. I had one manager where I remember sitting down with him and I said, you don't give me enough positive reinforcement, so I genuinely never know how I'm performing.
Good for you.
And he was like, I'm so sorry you feel that way. He's like, I think I just don't need to tell you because you're doing well.
Wow.
And it changed our relationship.
Yeah.
And he was always asking for feedback. I never left a meeting without him asking for feedback.
Wow.
He was the best leader I've ever had in my entire life. And it was so easy to be like, oh, Reese, he knows. Hey, Reese. I'd be like, Reese, do I need this? Do I need that? And he'd be like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. It created a beautiful relationship, but that's because Reese is an incredible person who is normal and well-adjusted.
Yes. Yeah.
And
took
he's not
that
a
feedback,
loser.
made an adjustment. And that's where clarity is kindness also,
Yes.
because otherwise you guys would have probably just stayed in a relationship that was spinning your wheels out.
Yes.
And we talked about this before we started rolling, but it's with dating. Oh. I need to know if you like what I'm doing. I need to know if
are you picking up what I'm putting down?
Yeah. Are you into this?
Yes.
And in the workplace, it's kind of the same. Yes, I'm absolutely open to feedback and adjustments of how I can do better. But I also need to know, am I doing anything you like?
Do you like me?
Yeah.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Do you wish I was dead? Because I've had managers where I'm like, if I was on the side of the street, hit by a bus, I fear you'd walk past me. I fear you'd be like, oh, I'm gonna have to open up a backfill. That's a real fear. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a little scary. So no, if the thing is, you can do all the right things, push for feedback. If your boss is a miserable, toxic loser, I'm so sorry. Nothing you say is changing that.
Yeah.
It's like going back to dating. It's like arguing with a narcissist.
Yeah.
They're never gonna see your point of view because they don't want to.
Yeah. And for the micromanagement, then basically the next steps are
same thing. So you have that vulnerable conversation. So you go in, hey, I've noticed that, there's a lot of checkpoints before I do X, Y, Z. Is there anything I should change to make sure you have visibility? Is there anything I should adjust to make sure you're feeling comfortable? And, I'm noticing that these touch points are slowing down my work and I just want to make sure we're feeling good. Your boss might say,
love that script.
Oh, easy, easy to use. Your boss might say, no, to be honest, I just need more updates from you. And then maybe it gives you the chance to proactively give people those updates before they ask.
Right.
And that puts the control back in your hands. That might be the time your boss says, honestly, I've gotten some not good feedback from your stakeholders and that's why I have eyes on you. And then at least you know. So the solution is the exact same every time. Hey, I've noticed X. Yeah. How can I be better at Y? See what they say. But again,
rooting it in the process.
Yes.
Rather than, hey, I feel rather than making it emotional and I feel like maybe there's a lack of trust, or I feel like rooting it in there's a lot of touch points. There seems to be a lot of involvement and visibility. It seems to be slowing me down. Orienting it around the process is really smart.
Incredible summary. Yeah, 100%. Rooted around process, rooted around how can we fix this, come from that solutions mindset. And again, remove emotion. Yeah. You should not be going into your conversation saying, you make me feel this. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
In the context of work, no one gives a shit. Yeah. You need to go in and say, from a process perspective, I'm noticing X.
Yeah.
How can we fix this? And that is the way that you move through healthily. And again, that only works if your boss isn't a loser.
Smart.
Yeah.
I also want to talk about workplace drama.
I'm kind of excited for that.
I'm very excited about it.
Love that.
And whether you're on a team or in an environment where there's always office gossip, always people are shitting on something or someone, there's just a lot going on in terms of drama. How do you suggest people show up? Because on one hand, there is a hive mentality factor of sometimes people bond over mutual dislike of something. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people want to know that you're on their side. So if you completely opt out of being involved in any of the office culture, sometimes I'm well, are you going to be penalized for that? And then on the other hand, you don't want to take a misstep and get in on the drama and have it backfire. What do we do?
Okay, I love this question, and because it's real. And this is one of those things you only learn by making a mistake or seeing someone else get burned, burned very badly. It's human nature for us to bond with people through negativity.
Yeah.
It is. Even I came in, I'm oh, it's cold, it's snowy. That's how you bond. The joke of the workplace trauma bond is real.
Yeah, it is.
It's real. And I agree. I think if you opt out of building connection at work, that actually does hurt your career. Here are kind of the frameworks I would have in my mind. The first is, would you be comfortable with the CEO, human resources, and your boss hearing what you're about to say?
Whew.
And if the answer is no, shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. Have you considered
Shut it.
Shut your mouth. Have you considered shutting your mouth? Because here's the thing. It will come out. Or you never watch The Real Housewives. If you think it won't come out, baby, it always comes out. So when it comes to bonding over negativity, focus on things that don't matter. I have created great workplace relationships where people are maybe complaining about that idiot on the finance team. I don't want to be the person chiming in, speaking ill of someone. But I'll talk about the process. Yeah, that process is so slow. It took 3 weeks for me to get my thing approved. Oh my God, that system, I swear it's crashing all the time. I'm over it. You can contribute.
Smart.
Not talking about people.
Again, focusing not on the emotion, but the process.
Yes.
That's so smart.
And because someone's going to come back, let's say it does blow up. You say, yeah, that system sucks. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not talking about Fred. I'm talking about the system that like is working underneath
Yes.
Fred. Yeah.
So as long as you are not gossiping about people, gossip if you feel the need to chime in and you're feeling left out. Gossip about things that don't matter, that are like tangible, actual process things, systems, tools. The other thing
shit on the systems, not the people.
Shit on the system.
Shit all over
the musical. Like that's what you need to do. The next thing is focus on redirecting, because the hardest thing to do to avoid getting sucked into the drama, because I'm like this. Someone comes to me with did you hear what Martina said? And I go, no, girl, what?
Yeah.
And I gotta be honest with you.
Yeah.
I want to know what Martina
Spill
said.
the tea.
Spill the tea. I'm gonna let you spill the tea. Guess how I'm gonna respond? Oh wow, I've never noticed that about Martina. Oh wow.
Even if you have, you're just okay.
Play a little Stugats, play a little stupid. I need you to play stupid, and I need you to play the game of positive gossip. So when I come to you and I go, Martina is an absolute doorknob to work with. Martina is impossible. Instead of you being like, one thing about Martina, I hate her. Guess what you're going to say? You know, I don't work with Martina that much. And like, I haven't noticed that. But you know what I do really like about her? Like, let's give her credit where it's due. She shows up to work super positively. Really hard for me to keep that conversation going without seeming like an asshole.
Yeah.
You need to not allow people to loop you into the cycle of gossip, because it starts with Martina one day and next it's Bob. And then when your little work friend gets called into HR for being an office bully, guess who's right there beside her?
Yeah. Because you were associated with it. You were there. It's
so
like
shut
guilty
it down.
by association.
Exactly. So if you feel the need to gossip, you're systems based. If you're uncomfortable and want to redirect, play a little stupid, then play a little nice gossip. Like that's how you get in and out.
Oh, I love that.
You kind of have to.
Yeah.
And like you might have your odd work friend where you can be like, listen, I do fucking hate Martina. But that takes years of trust building. That work friend is not your friend until proven otherwise. Like you need
to cross over into like actual showing up in real life to be able to have that trust.
Showing up in real life, and I would argue never talking about work. Like that work friend is not your real life friend until you can hang out outside of work without having to talk about work and work people.
Wow, that's so true.
Otherwise, that's your colleague.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Because I've had like really great work friends that I felt were like becoming best friends.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I left that company, the relationships died. And I'm like, what happened? Well, that was a work friend.
Yes.
Versus Kaylin, who you know and who we did this
love.
podcast
Hey,
with.
girl.
We met at work, and the way that we became best friends in real life was, you know, life-changing. But
Yes.
that involved us having like a full relationship outside of the workplace where we didn't even talk about work. So
yes,
love that distinction and love that filter for knowing who to trust.
Exactly.
Because I think it's really, I am a very trusting person, and I just think anyone who talks to me is going to be trustworthy.
Yes.
But people do some sketchy shit when they're, you know, under the gun.
People don't always have good intentions. And I think even beyond intention, because I am the same, I like to assume no one is coming to me to gossip because they're trying to be mean. I assume they're trying to vent.
Yeah.
And that's natural.
Yeah.
And anyone who says that gossip is evil actually doesn't understand the history of gossip. Like gossip as a function is, I could so derail this because I think this is so fascinating, but gossip in times of war were how women got messages out about what was happening overseas. So like the demonization of gossip is ultimately like the demonization of women-led communities. And that's how I justify talking shit. But the gossip is how people bond and create community. And that's not inherently bad. The challenge is you need to be very selfish in the context of work. It is not community at work. It is just you.
Interesting. Okay. I love that. Yeah. And we do need to vent. I've vented a lot when I was working in corporate situations. So that's such a helpful framework. Just vent about tangible processes, systems, not people.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Call your bestie if you need to shit talk at home.
Call your mom. Like my mom would be like, how's Martina doing? And I'm like, worse than ever.
Still a bitch.
We're still a huge bitch. Like it, and that's totally okay. Can I also say something crazy?
Yeah.
Complain to ChatGPT.
Oh,
Sorry.
smart.
No, you don't understand. If I'm like, I don't want to speak ill of this person. I work with this person too much. I don't want to put that like juju out there. Sometimes I'll be like, hey, Miss ChatGPT, I need to complain about someone. What do you think?
I love that.
And I think that's okay.
Yeah, I have a friend who has been using ChatGPT to navigate a difficult boss and just getting such objective advice on next steps and like how to document and what to do. That's a great point, that even though AI is scary in some ways in the workplace, it can also like really help us filter our reactions into something productive.
AI is only scary if we don't know how to use it. And it's only going to replace your job if you don't know how to work with it, right? So like AI is a friend, not a foe, as long as you understand how to play nice.
Yeah, I want to also touch on how do we make ourselves indispensable in an AI world right now? Because that is, as you mentioned off the top, like one of the threats that we're feeling to the way that our workplaces run, to layoffs, to redundancies. I mean, I have hope that it will also open up new jobs, new opportunities.
100%.
But how do we make, other than like actually knowing how to use the tools, how do we make ourselves indispensable in an AI world?
It's a great question. And I want to debunk the myth that you need to somehow be a technology expert. You absolutely do not need to be a tech expert. It's actually really simple. You need to find ways to have AI, whatever your platform of choice is, streamline your work so that you can focus on things that make you indispensable. For example, high volume scheduling jobs will be eliminated in the next handful of years. So that was one of my first jobs out of university, was high volume scheduling of interviews. That job probably won't exist in the very near future. But what was very important in that job and what got me ahead in my career is the same thing that will help you maintain your job now. I built great relationships. I was able to really entice candidates to stick through a lengthy interview process, and it was very rooted in EQ and process improvement. It all comes back to process. So if you're someone who's scared about your job getting eliminated by AI, ask yourself, how can I get rid of the fluff that doesn't matter? Like the emails and where can you automate so that you can focus on delivering value? So a great example, let's say you're a marketing manager right now, and part of your job is scheduling out when your company delivers posts. How can you automate that? So instead of it taking an hour, it takes 15. And then the rest of that time block, you would have been scheduling those posts. You're thinking about next quarter. You're thinking about an innovative event that you can pitch. And then you say, you know what, big boss, who probably doesn't understand AI realistically in most companies, you're going to say, here's what I was able to do. Do you want me to scale that for the rest of the company? And with that extra time, I was actually thinking, have we thought about doing blah, 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 blah? And suddenly you are a person who uses technology to get ahead and not a person who is a victim of technology.
Snaps.
And that's a T.
You can automate so much and actually open up more brain capacity, more creative capacity, which is really what our superpower is. And I also think I've been seeing so much about how emotional intelligence will become such a valuable currency because that is something that AI cannot solve for at this point. So showing up with the communication and human skills in the workplace, I think is automatically going to differentiate you from everyone else who doesn't have that.
The number one skill that is going to be a gap in the next 10 years, in my opinion, is emotional intelligence. Because AI is great. It's helping us inform how we communicate. It misses emotional nuance and cues. It misses the ability to say, you know, Susan from this team actually doesn't respond well to this communication style. Let me finesse. Your ability to build a meaningful, like valuable relationship with the people you work with is why you're going to get ahead. It's also no secret that the number one reason people get promoted isn't skill, it's likability and visibility. So your ability to invest in those things, who gives a shit about AI? If you are the most well-liked and pretty good person at your office, you're going to be the one getting ahead.
Yeah, likability is a huge factor.
Massive.
I wanted to also get your opinion on like authenticity in the workplace, because when I was in the corporate world, I really struggled with like, how do I show up in a way that's still me, and how me is it okay to be? And how do we show up with like authenticity while also knowing that like it is a workplace. You do have to like alter yourself slightly, I think, but I want your take on it. Like, how do we show up as ourselves in a way that isn't going to be a deterrent for our success?
That is such a good question. Anyone who says you can bring your whole self to work either is incredibly dull or is lying.
Their whole self sucks.
Your whole self is vanilla. You know what I mean? Whole self, interesting. If I brought my whole self to an office setting, they'd drag me up by the hair and be like, you are not welcome back here. I don't know how you got in. Give me your key card. You know what I mean? So I think, first of all, accept the fact that authenticity at work is a facet of your personality. It is not all of it. And here's how I would say you can feel more authentic at work is with this kind of example. How you show up with one of your girlfriends maybe you're like a bit more goofy. It's like the giggling kind of relationship. You're always laughing. And then you have other girlfriends where you sit down with and it's like talking about philosophy and the world and emotion. And then you go on a date and you're kind of like light and bubbly and flirty. Those are all very valid facets of who you are. Those are all authentic to you. And there are different elements of your personality that get heightened based on who you're around. I actually am a big believer in when you define your brand and how you want to show up at work, think of it the same way. So I think about before I go on a date that I want to be like fun and open and really vulnerable. When I think about the facet of me or like the part of me that shows up at work, I want to be bold and courageous and warm, but I don't want people knowing my business unless it's someone I really trust. So define your personal brand and think about authenticity as a part of you want to highlight that already exists. It's not phony. And what parts do you get to protect to make sure you have some balance there? But I think Gen Z struggles with that a lot because they were robbed of a lot of in-office years. But they're also a generation that kind of rejects the BS of the corporate world, which I love. But I would also say that's only going to be cool when Gen Z is in upper management. And you've got 12 years to get there. So be yourself, be your personality, flex what feels good. But at the end of the day, you can't bring it all to work the same way I can't bring it all to a date. I can't be talking about the Real Housewives and crying about a TikTok I saw on a date. I probably have. Do you know what I mean? And you know what? And I'm happy you brought that up. And I think I should, because that is a part of me, but it's not the part of me that's going to help me in this situation. Beyonce is still Sasha Fierce, and Sasha Fierce is still Beyonce.
That's a really great answer, because I do think there's authenticity. I felt like I was being a different version of myself, and I was like betraying myself and trying to like play the corporate game, and it felt like really inauthentic. But if you boil it down to like what are values of what matters to me in how I show up at work, maybe that's like I really value honesty and transparency in all facets of my life. I'm going to lead with that at work. I really value like inclusivity. I'm going to make sure everyone always feels included around me at work. I value humor, but like I can't bring my like potty mouth and dirty sense of humor into the workplace. So how can I insert and inject lightness without making it inappropriate?
Exactly.
So you're still able to show up with those facets of yourself that are important to you without going all the way on every facet.
Yes, you think of it like a spotlight. Like you're this beautiful multi-dimensional person. What are the core values and things that matter to you enough that are going to help you get ahead in that setting? And we're not shutting out those other parts of you. Those are very valid parts of you. Just in that setting, we're going to shine the light on, the couple of, I'm a big, bold person, but not all the time. But I lean into the boldness because I know that helps me get ahead at work. So you just have to pick the things that are strategic, and it's going to feel inauthentic, and that's okay. At the end of the day, this is a job. This is a job. It won't feel inauthentic when you're walking to the bank with a big fat check in your hand.
Okay. Truth.
And you know what? That's
Facts.
okay. That's okay.
It's not everything. It is not everything.
Yes.
And I think I have had the mentality for so much of my life that like my career is everything, but like I can express so many other parts of myself in so many other areas of my life. So what's like the best part of me to move me forward in my career?
The same way that you have a different hat you put on when you go to the gym. It's this more like aggressive in the zone person. That's not who you are on the couch with your mom.
No.
And that's okay. Those are all different elements that make you you. What do we need to activate to get ahead in that situation? That's survival.
Love that.
And in a world where capitalism didn't exist, sure, maybe we could be authentic in quote unquote work, but that's not where we're at.
Authentic to values, but not to all parts of you all the time. I think that's a great approach. I love that. If you are having a conflict with a coworker, we've talked about bosses, but like your team, a coworker, what's the best way to handle that? Do you approach the coworker? Do you go to upper management and express what you're going through? Do you just like shut the fuck up and go home? What do you do?
The first thing you have to do is a crazy assessment. Sometimes conflict with coworkers is because this coworker is toxic. You cannot negotiate with toxic people. If it's a toxic person, refer back to point A regarding your boss. If it's a toxic cuckoo person that you know cannot take feedback, is a little off kilter, and the energy they give, you're like, I don't think I can fix you. You're going to go to your boss and say, hey, I've been working with Susan over the last few weeks. I've noticed we've had some struggles in communication. Is there anything I can do better? And your boss is going to go, what's going on? And then you're going to say, well, Susan called me an ugly bitch.
What could I do better?
What did I do to deserve that?
That's such a good way.
And your boss is going to go, she did what? And your boss is going to say, let me handle it. Let me talk to Susan's boss. Let me talk to Susan. Let me put Susan on another project. Your boss handles it. That's the best way to handle a cuckoo person. But
Very smart.
Very smart. Very strategic, because you go, what did I do?
Yeah.
What did I do to deserve being called a stupid bitch? However, if it's just like, this person's not toxic, you're just, something's off, you're not in the same zone, you've got some tension, maybe there's a project that didn't go well and it's lingering.
Yeah, he's not vibing.
And it happens, we're all humans. You have to operate and assume best intent. You have to assume people around you have complex lives, who have a lot of feelings. You never know what's going on in someone's personal life. My biggest recommendation, sit with yourself and ask, is this going to go away on its own?
Yeah.
Is this like a short-term project? Yeah. Do I really need to do this? Sometimes the answer is no, just be the bigger person. That's okay. If this is a long-term stakeholder, with the consent of your boss, so I want you to go to your boss and say, hey, similar language, I've been working with Susan, we've been having some issues, I'm thinking of having a conversation. What's your thoughts on that? Based on your company culture, your boss might say, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
If you're working in tech, that's probably the way to go.
Yeah.
You're working in banking, they're going to say, let me handle it. And both are okay. That doesn't make you a snitch. It is just you saying, I want this to get better. How do I get there?
Yeah.
If your boss says, talk to them, sit down with your coworker. Remember, your boss is your advocate. You have to go through your boss first. That's why I say, if you've got a toxic boss, there's almost nothing you can do.
Yeah.
It is what it is. If you are in the position where you get to speak to that person, hey, like, I just wanted to do a quick touch point. You book a 15-minute meeting with them. And you start off by saying, I just wanted to get a feeler. How are you feeling about our collaboration? And that's it. They might say, oh, this is good. This might just be how they work.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Or they might say, I'm noticing tension.
Yeah.
And that's where you say, I really value our partnership. I think you're brilliant. Like, compliment them. I think you're like incredible at what you do. You've got a great reputation. I've been noticing we've had some pain points with, insert a couple of neutral examples, like delivering on this project, aligning on expectations.
Yeah.
And I really want us to get to a place where working together is like a well-oiled machine. Do you have any feedback for me? And that will open the door.
Not accusatory.
Building
a bridge.
Yes. And they may have good feedback for you. Maybe you're not as clear as you think you are when you ask for things. And then you can say, that's great. Are you like, I appreciate that. I'll change it. Are you comfortable if I share what I've noticed? They'll share, but because you started off by accepting things with grace, chances are, if this is a normal person, and I've had these conversations, I was like, oh, like, I'm not clear with my asks. And they're like, no. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm going to start putting things in writing, and then we'll, oh my God. And we have such a close relationship because all vulnerability does is bring you closer to somebody.
Yes.
And if that doesn't go well, that's why you have your boss's buy-in. You go to your boss and you say, here's what I said. This is how it was received. Your boss is going to say, I'm going to handle it. That's what you do.
What a communication masterclass.
Truly,
I love that.
like 101.
I love that. Yeah. That can be used in any relationship in your life, honestly.
Yes.
But that's such a thing I think we're missing, is leading with vulnerability. Like, we go in a bit of an attack.
Yeah.
And if we come in leading with vulnerability, with like setting the intention of like, I'm having this conversation because I care enough to want to improve things.
Yes.
And like, I really value us being able to work together. So, you know, is there anything I can do? And then, do you mind if I share? I love that.
It all comes down, actually, we talked about this earlier, like, so much of it comes down to ego. Like, we're so scared to say, we're scared to open the door and say, did I do anything wrong? Like, I don't know the answer. What's going to get you ahead in your career is your ability to say, I don't know everything.
Yes.
Because that gives people the space to say, okay, me neither. And then guess what? You get to figure it out together.
Oh my God, to apply feedback without ego, that is a life skill.
And when you start, and it's hard, trust me, I still hate getting feedback. No one likes it.
No.
But the second you detach emotion and realize people who give you feedback who aren't toxic are giving you that because they actually care about you enough to see you get to the next level.
That's true.
That's a gift.
That's true.
A yes man
people
is not
who
a
don't
person
care,
you need.
Yeah, they're not going to the effort of having an uncomfortable conversation.
No, and it's the girlfriends you have too, where it's like, you could be going back to that ex and they're like, slay girl, live your life. No, the good friends are like, are you stupid or are you dumb?
I'm doing an inventory of all my friends who've been intervening in my life and for my best interest.
And those are good friends because they care. The feedback hurts, but that actually is a higher value friend than the person who's egging you on and supporting you blindly.
Yeah, that's the easy
It's just
route.
the reality.
That's great advice. I love that. I can't wait to apply all of this.
It sucks. I hate those conversations.
It's
to be
so
clear,
uncomfortable,
I hate them.
but when it is a muscle, the more you have them, I've been avoidant of like uncomfortable conversations my whole life. And in the past year, I've started like being a bit more proactive and a bit more like initiating conversations, calls, meetings, even with friends, to be like, hey, this didn't feel great. I want to talk about it. I want to see if you're noticing anything. And it's getting easier every time I do it. And now I feel like this is a fucking superpower.
Yes, it
is. I
is.
start feeling like, what else have I been missing through avoidance in my life?
Yes. And it's interesting because the second you start to realize that people who get upset when you have boundaries are the people who planned on crossing them.
Yes.
So let them get upset. I'm going to communicate.
Let them.
Mel, where are you?
Mel.
Let them. Mel.
Okay, that was really helpful. My last work question for you is about the return to work in office orders that are trickling in. And I think it would be really helpful for people to understand, like, what are their rights? What can they ask for? How much pushback is there? How much negotiation, especially in this current market, do you think there is? Like, how do we equip ourselves for going back to work if we've like created an entire life around not being in an office?
You know what's crazy is a lot of the companies, and this isn't breaking news, but we know a lot of the companies who were spearheading hybrid and remote, Amazon, like the big tech giants, are the companies that are the major proponents of being back in the office 5 days a week.
5 is too many.
I don't have 5 pairs of wash jeans.
What are our rights?
Can I tell you something?
What can we do?
This is messed up.
Yeah.
You have no rights. No rights.
Can you like negotiate it all, or would you just go in there and just...
Not even legal recourse rights. And let me tell you why. Now, I'm prefacing this by saying I'm invested in learning a lot about employment law. I've taken a lot of employment law courses. I'm not an employment lawyer, so take what I say with a grain of salt. The challenge with return to work is we know that all the companies, all the big boys who are saying, let's work remotely, we're like, hey, 5 days a week, tap in. So you've got this like entire population of people who were hired under the pretense of remote work. You know, maybe they don't live in the region. Maybe there's aging parents they're taking care of, kids, etc. Lifestyle needs that were necessary for this decision. And now suddenly their job is dependent, by the way, for the same salary.
Yes.
That's crazy. Now I'm paying for a commute, paying for 2 hours a day to get in and out of this busy city. Anyways, whatever that may be. The problem is, because return to work policies are policies, company-wide, they are company-wide policies, they are not targeted at an individual.
There's no recourse.
Already been precedent that even if you class actioned, no leg to stand on. Companies are allowed to change their policies. The same way if you work at a restaurant, they're allowed to change the policy on uniform from blue shirt to black shirt. That's a company policy.
So your best bet is to just have like an open conversation with your boss about, if the expectation is 5, can we make it 3? Is there any wiggle room, or would you just be like, this is it? This is what you got to do?
Okay, couple of things I would say. Depends on the company culture. It depends on your situation. If you have an accommodations need, maybe you have a chronic illness, an aging parent that makes it very difficult, borderline untenable for you to come in, talk to your boss, open an accommodations request. There is flexibility with that. They have to have grace. You can ask for maybe a rolling start, like say, what can we do here? Can I start with 2 days a week, and then as I bump up childcare, get more comfortable with my sitter, I can bring it to 5 in a couple of months. Those are valid conversations. I need you to understand the reality is they're going to say no unless it's an accommodations request. And the reason they're going to say no is most major companies, and I hate saying this because I feel like you can sense my anxiety as I say this. Most major companies are using people's resistance to return to work as an excuse to fire them.
Oh, wow.
Because you're not leaning into the culture and you don't abide by company policy. And we all overhired, and in these economic times, I have to trim 2% of this workforce. Who do you think is the first on the chopping block?
The people not showing back.
Why do you think they're tracking how many days you physically tap into the office?
Wow.
Because your boss is running a report and is sending that report to their VP, and then you're getting flagged, and your boss has to tell you to come into the office more 2, 3, 4, 5 times.
Oh my God.
You didn't get your mid-year bonus because the economy's bad. Your rent is coming up. You're below on your return to office days. You're okay performance-wise. Maybe not great. Maybe it wasn't the best year for you. You're on the chopping block.
Oh, it's giving severance.
It's scary as hell. It's so that's why I say advocate for yourself, understanding this literally could be used to fire you. It's ethical. It's not ethical. It's bad. Like I don't agree with this obviously at all. Advocate for yourself. Always put yourself first.
But know the repercussions. It's just good to know right now. Like it's good to know so we can prepare for the job market we're looking at next 6 months.
Is that not insane?
Wow.
It is so. There's a lot that's not ethical. That when I started hearing that, like, okay, some of these big boy tech companies that you're applying to, I guarantee some of the companies you're applying to, one of the ways they've determined who they're axing is
who's showing up.
Well, can I also, something that's kind of crazy, Amazon gave people 2 or 3 weeks notice. I'm asterisk if I'm incorrect. It was under a month's notice from 0 days a week in the office to 5 days a week.
They're obviously just trying to fuck with people and get them fired.
For some people who can't do that, they go, I can't. They go, okay,
you're out.
Severance package. They don't have to call it a layoff.
Wow.
That's And that's what they're doing.
Wow.
They're trying to reduce, in that same report that Amazon came out with in whatever it was, late 2024, saying it was return to work. In that same report, they said they also had to restructure the workforce.
Wow.
Girl, we're not stupid.
Yeah, we can read between the
You're
lines.
restructuring
just read the
by
lines.
doing that.
Yeah.
And then not having repercussions of having a vacant office from a tax perspective.
Well,
What a
on that note, no, this has been
How
really,
about them Jays?
How about them Jays?
How about them Blue Jays?
There has been so much actionable and helpful advice in this. And I have one last question. I always ask my guests what's one thing that they didn't learn in school that they wish they had, but we have asked you that before. So you are getting the first variation ever.
Oh, I love that.
And I want to know, like, what's an adulting lesson that you keep having to learn over and over and over again?
Can I give you two?
I'll give
you like a work one and then
give me
like a
3.
personal.
Yeah.
I could give you a whole other episode worth.
We shall.
One is stop leaving your expenses for the end of every month.
Oof.
That's stupid. Do them. If you took 30 seconds, actually that extends to everything. Dishes, laundry. Just do it in the moment so it doesn't pile up and it's actually not that much work.
I needed to hear that.
That's one. I would say my second is I keep learning the lesson of, I hate to give Mel Robbins her flowers, but I think I have to. Let them is really hard to learn.
Yeah.
Like letting yourself grow out of friendships, grow out of certain relationships, and letting that happen, and realizing you shouldn't have to cling to, like, for dear life.
You don't need to hold so
people,
tightly.
Yes, for something to stay in your life, like for certain jobs, for certain friendships, like actually just breathing and being present and putting effort in, but like letting go of control.
Yeah. Less attachment.
Yeah, I'm still really learning that lesson. I've still got like a grip on certain people, places, and things where I'm like, I have a feeling if I let this go, it's going to slip out because it's supposed to, but I'm like not quite ready to release the jaws of life.
Oh, that's such a good one. I love that.
Being an adult sucks, dude.
It's fucking hard.
It's so stupid.
We are not equipped for this.
No, I'm over it. Like 24 is where I'd like to be stuck.
Oof. Oh, 24, I was a shit show. So maybe I'll give myself 27. That was a good year. 27 was
You know what? I loved 27.
27 was a good year.
I would do 27. And dare I say I'd do 28.
I love that answer. I needed to hear both of those. So thank you. Thank you for everything you do. I love the Straight Shooter Recruiter. I love your social content. I love following you and learning and laughing at the same time. It is such a gift, and I would love if you could share with everybody where they can follow you if they're not already, and where they can interact with everything you do.
Thank you so much. Well, I'm so excited to have you on the show because we'll definitely be talking. Soon. It's coming soon. We're definitely talking careers and some giggles.
Yes.
In very us fashion.
Yes.
But you can check me out on socials at Emily the Recruiter on TikTok and Instagram, as well as YouTube. And you can listen to the Straight Shooter Recruiter wherever you listen to fantastic podcasts.
Hell yes. Definitely follow, check it all out. You were just such a joy to interact with online and in person. So thank you for being here. This was so fun.
This was so fun. The feeling is so mutual. That was an absolute blast.
Yay.
Oh, I love it.